It's an extra special day because somebody else is with us today.
Who?
For the first time in a long time.
Well, hold on. We haven't even done the intro, dude. What are you doing?
Come on. What are you doing?
Well,
come on.
You haven't shut up for me to be able to do it.
Welcome to AT Banter, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything regarding the world of assistive technology. With our hosts, Steve Barkley, Rob Minot, and Ryan Fleury. Now, let's banter.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
I am Rob Minot, and with me today is Ryan Fleury.
Howdy.
And hey, look who it is. It is Steve Barkley sitting to my immediate right.
What? Why am I here? Who are you people?
Who are you?
Yeah, look, so where have you been?
I've been fishing and camping. Camping and fishing.
All right, and where do you go?
Well, the first week was the big family camping trip. That was up in Golden Ears Provincial Park at the Alouette Lake campsite.
Very nice.
And that was just family. And then my buddy has his 30-foot fishing boat out the outside of Vancouver Island. This year he had it just near the mouth of Barkley Sound, not named for me, but you know, it should have been. And we were at a place called Poet's Nook, which was beautiful. Had a lovely little harbor with like a narrow channel that led out into Barkley Sound, and you could cruise from there to the outside of the island. If the weather was good, you could go offshore fishing, and we found where the salmons were, and we slayed them buggers.
Nice. So
Yeah.
you caught a lot.
Limited out, actually, on both coho and spring salmon.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's two fish per day per person. And then you can have an aggregate limit for transport of 4 of each. So 4 coho, 4 spring. So we limited out on that stuff. We got a bunch of big halibuts off the bottom. We got some rock cod, some ling cod. And then after the first week, we came home, cut it all up, put it in the freezer, and then went back and did it all over again.
Wow.
So I've got enough fish in my freezer now to feed me for, well, a good long time.
Like the winter?
Yep.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Although I have to say, as somebody who enjoys making fun of Trump, you picked the wrong weeks to go camping.
Yeah. Did I? What did I miss?
Yeah, nothing much.
Yeah, his whole inner cabinet's gone, pretty much.
Well, they were a little gone when they walked in
Well,
there.
that's true, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even have time to mock him.
So,
to be honest.
so he finally came through with his campaign promise of draining the swamp.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Attaboy. He's just following through on his commitments.
Well, yeah, you missed some good shows though, I have to say. Me and Ryan were here working hard,
Yeah, slaving away.
slaving away. We had talked to Kyle Bryant. That was a good show. We talked to who else we talked to, Ryan?
Guy Hassan from Comics and Power.
That was interesting.
Right, saw that one.
Oh God, now I have to think back a few weeks.
Don't worry, there's no memory
yeah,
tests
wait.
here.
We also had Nelson Rago from Cool Blind Tech on.
That's right, and the folks from IRA,
Yep.
Ira.
which is it's an interesting subscription service that uses the Google Glass as a as a platform.
Right. Gotcha.
And they have their live agents. And
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so you have to go back and listen.
I guess I must.
Mm-hmm.
more to come.
What are we doing today, Ryan?
Today we are talking with Jessica Kovacs, who is the mother and blogger of a child who has a rare eye condition.
So that's it? We have nothing else to talk about?
There was an eclipse
We still
today.
have 10 minutes.
That's right. There was an eclipse today. And
I didn't see it.
And I got to see it in everything.
Now, did you notice all that article going around about how, oh, geez, and I don't remember who was doing it, but somebody they were making it so that blind people could experience the eclipse through,
Well,
I guess,
there was a
audio
couple
description?
Yeah, there was a couple apps, Eclipse Soundscape, was the name of one app that people were talking about, and I actually couldn't find it on the Play Store.
Oh, really?
Even though somebody said it was
That's a
there.
shame.
So if people have any feedback on that app, it'd be great to let us know how that worked out.
So what does it do? It just goes darker, darker,
Yeah, I don't know.
darker, darkest. Later.
Look, there's an idiot looking at it without glasses. Yeah, it would have been interesting to hear how that worked. So we'll have to see if anybody wants to drop us a line and let us know.
I wonder how many people actually do go blind looking at eclipses. Like, do you think it's common?
I don't know.
I've never heard of anybody.
I wonder how many animals go blind because they tell you not to let your animals look at the sun either.
Yeah, but the animals aren't stupid. They're not going to look at the sun. They don't care. They don't care if it's getting a little bit dark.
Well, there was so much run up to this eclipse. People were traveling thousands of miles to get down to the prime locations to see this thing. So,
yeah,
you got all these people looking up at the sky.
I had people on my Facebook feed complaining that, they went to the planetariums or whatever and they were out of the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, people are taking it really seriously. I don't know. I was a little underwhelmed. I mean, it was neat, but...
Did you have the glasses?
I had the glasses, and
Did
I was
you?
just like, okay, it's a big black spot on the sun.
There's a little black spot on the sun today.
Something, something, something.
It's the same old thing
as yesterday.
That's the musical portion of the program.
That's right. Name that tune.
That's King of Pain by The Police.
Wow. That's good.
Although I really loved Weird Al Yankovic's version of it called King of Suede. That was good too.
And it's a good thing that Google Home was turned off or Steve would have it playing it right now.
That's right.
Yeah, what are you turning off our host for?
Well, if I'm going to have him on, then he's got to be sitting on the table with a mic in front of him.
We should really do that.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right.
Why not? People seem to have enjoyed that show.
All right. Well, next week's a new show, so we'll bring him out.
Yep.
What's with people putting hashtags on their Facebook posts? Does Facebook recognize hashtags?
It does now, yeah.
It does, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. I was like, why are people doing this?
Yeah, holy shit. Some people are taking it to extremes.
It's annoying.
literally like 30 hashtags
Yeah.
on one post.
It's
like,
annoying.
it's just like, what the hell are
Yeah.
you doing?
Hashtag, I can't believe this is another hashtag.
Exactly.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
No, I didn't think it was supported yet, but okay. That would explain it.
Yeah, some people take the whole hashtag thing way too far. Way too far. In fact, it's just going to get to the point where hashtags are just, they're essentially rendered useless because...
Well, and I think with Facebook, people are just doing it because with Twitter, you're limited to 140 characters, right? So you get two, maybe three hashtags in their Facebook. You can have a page worth of hashtags if you want.
Exactly.
So...
Yeah, people never learn. People always ruin stuff.
We're going back
We
to
have
MySpace.
a great idea, and then they just ruin it.
Yep.
Let's go back to MSN chat.
We can do that.
Oh, yeah. Or remember, what was that one? ICQ.
ICQ.
Oh, the good old days. ICQ. I wonder if that's still around.
Probably.
The Twit
It
network.
probably got folded into AOL Messenger.
The Twit network is still using IRC.
Are they?
Yeah.
Nice.
For their chats or live shows and stuff. IRC.twit.tv.
So I'll go back to using ICQ and load up some EverQuest. Okay, so joining us today is Jessica Kovacs. Jessica writes a blog called Thomas Marshall Does It All, where she documents the day-to-day life with her son, who was born with a rare eye condition.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
So you're in, where are you, Jessica?
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So you are a Penguins fan.
Yes.
Good for you. Must be nice to have a hockey team that actually does stuff occasionally. Like goes on cup runs and wins cups. And
2 years in a row. Pretty good.
Well, you can rub it in.
Well, we're in Vancouver, Ed, so
It's just sad.
we just have a hockey team so that we have an excuse to riot every once in a while.
That's right.
So, Jessica, tell us a little bit about the blog and how it all got started and who this Thomas Marshall guy is.
Okay. Let's see. Tom, I had him in 2009, And he was unique from the day he was born. Doctors immediately knew there was something different about him. And so it was just a very untraditional parenting experience from like day one. Like there was never that lull. It was always like, what's going on? How is this going to work? I mean, we didn't know what his medical conditions were, but we knew that there were conditions there. So basically the blog grew out of, Tom's life and being his mom. There was so much different about him, I guess, about like, not different about him, but different in the parenting experience. And there was so much information that I felt like I wasn't getting it. Like, I wish I had known this stuff earlier,
Right.
And there's so many great resources, but sometimes you don't find out about them until your child has passed them. So I really wanted to tell Tom's story. I wanted to help other parents and get good information out there and just, make it easier for other parents and other kids like Tom to get the resources they need. And maybe just see that, even if you have a visual impairment from day one, you can be a happy child and live a great life and do lots of cool stuff.
Now tell us a little bit about his actual condition.
Tom has bilateral persistent fetal vasculature syndrome. So they used to call it PHPV. But basically his eyes did not develop correctly. I guess in like the vitreous of the eye, which is like the gel that gives the middle of your eye form and shape. When your eye is developing, that is filled with vasculature as it grows to nourish the growing eye. And at a certain point in development, that should dissolve away. But in him, it didn't. It persisted. Right. So that's the persistent fetal vasculature, of the name. So that vasculature stays there, and it's makes it cloudy, and it in his case, and this happens often, it creates scar tissue and attaches onto the retina and pulls it off the back of the eye. So he was born with detached retinas.
Oh, wow.
So is it a rare condition?
It's rare to have it as severe as he has and to have it bilateral. I think like when people have cataracts, which are common, like when children are born with cataracts, it's not, it can come with that pretty often. And I think sometimes, in general, it's fairly rare. We really had to go to specialists to find someone who had seen it and knew what to do with it. It's like the type of thing sometimes doctors are like, oh, I can't wait to get in there and see. It's like, yeah, please don't.
Mm-hmm. Is Thomas your only child?
Actually, I just had a baby 5 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so he's got a little sister now.
Aww.
Nice.
And happy and healthy?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So now, does he have any sort of light perception, or is he completely blind?
He is completely blind these days. He had, 5 vitrectomy surgeries in Detroit, Michigan. We went to a doctor called Dr. Capone. Dr. Capone and Dr. Treese are the experts in persistent fetal vasculature. So, people go to see them from all over the world. They're incredible and both just really great people as well. So we were lucky that, his eyes are really severe and they were able to sort of stabilize things. And he did have light perception. And I think, some level of sight, no matter how, rudimentary for a while. But he did develop glaucoma, which took away anything he had gained. But we're very lucky in that he still has his eyes, because a lot of children with this condition, their eyes tend to, at his level of severity, they tend to need their eyes removed.
And so has the condition stabilized now? It won't, there's really going to be no more activity, or is it something that he's going to sort of have to deal with for the rest of his life?
He'll have to deal with it, the rest of his life. He'll have to, keep an eye on it. And we just go, he has an exam under anesthesia to make sure the retina's, still settled, make sure the glaucoma is still, being treated. And basically he just does eye drops every day. He hasn't had a surgery in probably like 4 years.
Right.
For glaucoma. But he's been stable and feel really lucky.
Tell us a little bit about why you started the blog initially. And
a lot of when I first started it, it was when he was going through all his glaucoma surgeries. So I was trying to, update my friends and family, and, it can be a hard conversation to have and have it like 12 times.
Right.
So it just seemed like a good idea to start a blog, and that way everyone could be updated. Everyone could just like see a picture of him. Look, he's doing great. Look, he's fine, and also, share our experience with other people that might be going through it. Because I know when he was first diagnosed, what's everyone do? They get on Google and start trying to find information.
Right.
And all the information was either extremely dry medical information from like medical journals. And there was no example of like a family that just was living with this, and what would that be like? So I thought we could be that family.
Yeah. And that's so important too, because, like you said, it's one thing to just find a bunch of medical descriptions, but if you don't have any examples of how people are actually living their day-to-day life with a condition like that, you still feel like you're kind of working in the dark. So it's incredibly valuable for sure.
Definitely. Because I know I could have used it when Tom was diagnosed, because everything I know it's not the doctor's fault, because they only see, you think they see you when you're in the office. They don't get to know these kids. They don't know what they're capable of.
Right.
So, if you looked at all of Tom's diagnoses, and he has a lot, you would have no picture of what he is and what he can do as a person,
Were there any advocacy groups that you could go to as a parent of a blind kid to, get some help and some insight into what to expect?
There are. We have done some worked with the National Federation of the Blind a little bit.
Right.
And in our local area, we have a school for blind children, and that's where Tom started his education at. So he went to preschool there. So those were both two organizations that really helped us sort of, get our feet under us, get our heads around the idea of like blindness and what it could mean, and, all the cool opportunities that exist for blind people.
Did you guys get any like sort of, did they supply any equipment for you guys, or were you guys on the hook for any sort of braillers or canes or anything like that?
We got our first cane from the National Federation of the Blind. You can get a new free cane from them every 6 months. So when Tom was like, I don't know, like around a year and a half, that's when he really started walking. And I was like, well, I guess I'll need a cane. And that's when he had been, in early intervention services since he was like, 2 months old. And he worked with a teacher of the visually impaired that came to our house once a week. But she was not certified in orientation and mobility. So I got, made a request to get one who was certified. And I know they thought that was sort of weird because he's so young. And I'm like, well, he is a really active kid. He wants to go. Like, he was banging and crashing into everything. And I was like, we need to get him some skills so that he doesn't, have black eyes all the time or something.
Well, I would think too, that's something that you want to encourage, even, especially at a young age like that, because the more independent he can feel, even at a young age, that's going to carry through.
Exactly. And I always want him to feel like he's in control and like not held back in any way. So we started O&M about that time with, the guy. It switched to a guy, and he was very different. It's like the first teacher was an older lady who was very sweet, but she was very like nurturing, babying a little bit, and this new guy, he was like, Tom, it's time to go to work. Let's get to it, And at first Tom was like, what the heck? I don't want this, And it was a bit of an adjustment for him, but it was a wonderful change. And I saw so much development, and he became a confident little cane user pretty quickly.
Awesome. I also noticed on your blog site there was a mention of echolocation.
Yes. I've always been interested since I found out about Daniel Kish.
Yep.
And how he's honed his echolocation abilities. And one of Tom's previous orientation mobility instructors at his when he was at the School for Blind Children, she told me that she thought he was doing a little bit of echolocation. I don't notice much of it, but I think when he gets a little older, we would like to try and get him involved with Daniel Kish's organization for some training.
Yeah, Daniel's come up here and he's done a number of workshops on it. It's pretty cool to watch Dan at work.
It is. It's amazing, just from what I've seen online. And I would love to have him have that, tool.
So can somebody explain what echolocation is for anyone who might not be familiar with it?
Essentially, it's using sound to try and shape out the space that you're in. So you might do it with like a click like that or something, and then you're looking for that sound coming back, being reflected off of objects.
Is he now? And Daniel, is he the only guy that does that in North America?
Oh no. There's all kinds of people who do it, and there's been some really famous cases of people who just did it kind of naturally. Ray Charles was one of those people. He would walk around without a cane all the time, and just
listening to his shoes clicking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that Tommy went to a school for the blind. Initially, is he in public school now?
He is. He's just starting his second year of public school. He's going into first grade.
And how's that experience been for you guys?
It's been good. I mean, his whole educational career, I can honestly say that it has been, it's been way better than I expected, because you hear a lot of horror stories of people not getting the services they need. And he's had a lot of dedicated teachers and a lot of great resources, for sure. We started the School for Blind Children. We started going to like a play group there when he was a toddler. And when he turned 3, he started going to preschool there. So he went there. He did like 3 years of preschool, 1 year of kindergarten there. And then I transferred him to public school, and he did another year of kindergarten there just to ease him into the whole, different situation. Because his old school, he was in a class of like 6 or 7 kids who were all blind.
Right.
And to go into, a whole school that's huge with so many kids, so many sounds, so much bigger. I wanted him to, not, have so much academic pressure of first grade, which sounds silly, but it is these days. Sort of ease his way into it.
What kind of class size is he in now?
What he does now, he is in like an intensive learning support classroom for part of the day, where he works one-on-one with a teacher and in small groups. And then he spends another portion of the day in with his regular age peers. I know a lot of people aren't want 100% inclusion with the regular peers, but Tom, this is what works for him. And I think the whole individual education plan is what works for your child, instead of what is like the goal of the greater, what people think is the best. I think it has to be what is the best for your child. And we've seen a lot of growth and development in him in the year he's been in public school. I'm really glad I made the choice to move him there because the old school he was in, the school for blind children, it was mostly for kids who are multiply handicapped. And Tom does have, developmental delays, so he does have additional diagnoses. But that was more of a 100% life skills learning at that school, whereas I wanted him to have the opportunity to, go as far as possible in a public school.
So I'm always kind of fascinated with, especially with blogging, in terms of just how much it can really sort of help people who are going through specific things in their own life, while at the same time contributing to sort of an online community. Have you found that with the blog? Like, have you found that it's sort of enhanced what you've been going through, as well as you've been getting a lot of feedback from the community as well?
I would definitely say so. I mean, we've got a lot of opportunities that came to us through the blog. With the Perkins School for the Blind, we participated in this thing called their Backpacking Smart Brailler giveaway a couple years ago. This is when the Perkins School first introduced the Smart Brailler.
Right.
So that's, I don't know if I'll just describe it. It's a regular brailler, but it has like a little computer interface on it. So whatever you're typing, it'll give you the audio feedback.
Right.
So Tom was one of the first kids to be able to try that out. So basically that came to us. He got to try it out for 2 weeks. I blogged about it, and then we mailed it off to the next family to try. And in the end, one family got to win it. We didn't end up winning it, but we did crowdfunding they gave us, the opportunity to get a reduced cost one. And we were able to crowdfund $2,000 in about 12 hours. It was amazing. Wow. Yeah, it was great. And Tom still uses that brailler.
Is that the main brailler that he uses?
It is. Yeah, he took it to his school last year, and then after they saw how great he did with it, they bought one for him to use at school. So now we have one at home.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and it's funny because the school, what do you call it? Our intermediate unit, that's who is contracted to provide those services to our school districts. And I guess the head of it was not a big fan of the smart braillers. But, just like how I said about the individual, I think you have to say, this is what works for Tom. And luckily we had one to give it a try because they did not want to buy them.
Right.
But for Tom, just having that extra feedback of the audio was it was so important to him. The way he uses it now, they make him do some work, and his reward is then they'll let him use it with the audio feedback. So
yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, it's very much the same here too. I mean, agencies here will often, they have the products that they like, and that's generally the products that they'll supply to the users. Mm-hmm. And even if that particular product doesn't necessarily work the greatest for a user, that's what they deal with, and they won't necessarily look at other products.
Well, up here, they actually did look at the Perkins Smart Brailler, and they ended up not going with it because of issues that they had with it. In the early going, they had problems with the cases breaking on them and various mechanical issues. So they decided to go with the Mountbatten Brailler here instead, which is an electronic brailler. So they either use the standard Perkins Classic or the Mountbatten Brailler.
Yeah, I know that Mountbatten is supposed to be really great too. He had already been working on the Perkins brailler, so this is just where we ended up. But it's been good for him.
Excellent.
Yeah, it comes down to whatever is going to work the best.
Yep.
That's really the key. And so, agencies are very detached from that whole process in terms of, they're just looking at the product. They're just looking at, crunching numbers or whatever. Their relationships with different manufacturers. They don't always necessarily key into the end user and what they're going to be comfortable with, unfortunately. But
yeah, that's definitely been one advantage of the blog, to get to try that, see what it would be like for him. Because you're right. I mean, I can't just go down to like the Apple store and try a brailler out. So
right. Yeah, well, and it's tricky. And all those braillers, like all that equipment is so expensive too.
Oh yeah, it's outrageous.
But mind you, there is hope, because there are some things that they're working on right now. A couple brailers that they're trying to bring in at a much lower price point. There's some different technology.
Yeah, I keep seeing amazing things. Like, I'm always getting people sending me links about new technologies that are in development. So I feel like Tom is lucky to be, born visually impaired at this time in history, because he's just going to see so many new things coming available.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we've said that here on the podcast as well, as that, in general, I mean, assistive technology is so much better these days than it was even 20 years ago, let alone 100.
Yeah, it's funny because when we did his last IEP revisions, I was saying, well, let's put some technology goals in there. And it's funny because I think most people are not putting those in there for a kindergartner, but when you're visually impaired, you have to be up on technology from day one.
Yeah, and part of it is going to depend on the kid too, right? Some kids are going to be able to embrace technology earlier on than others, and if you've got that kid who's really motivated to use technology, then why slow them down?
Yeah, Tom is an interesting kid because he shows his abilities. They're like on a range of ages. Like, in some ways he's very advanced, in other ways he is he's behind. So it's like you never really know with him. So I just like sort of assume competence and push for the most I can. I feel like that's the best I can do, is to make sure that he gets exposure to all these things, and then we'll just we'll see where he ends up.
And so, from the sounds of it, obviously, you are a big advocate of Braille literacy, because there is a debate these days about, because screen readers and text-to-speech options are, so prevalent. Some people argue that Braille is sort of dying.
Yeah, we call those people morons.
Yeah, I find that
I have strong opinions
crazy.
Around Braille.
For work, I'm a proofreader and copywriter, so I can't imagine letting my child be illiterate, and that's what he would be if he could not read and write Braille.
Right.
I mean, I would never accept that for any other child, so there's no way I would accept that for Tom just because he happens to be blind. And the fact that he has, additional disabilities, I mean, there are kids with many different conditions that learn to read and write. Just because he'll be doing it in Braille, that's just the medium he'll use to become literate. It seems like, I guess, if you're looking at it from the outside, you might think, why would you need it? But when you truly understand that Braille is just how someone reads, I don't see how you could argue against it.
Yeah, we're baffled by that too. Although I don't think the debate quite rages as powerful as it did, say, 5 years ago.
It goes in fits and starts. It's weird because it seems to crop up every time there's a new technological advance, and the most recent thing that I think has brought it to the forefront is iPads and tablet computing, because you can get really cheap tech now with speech on it, and every time that speech technology gets cheaper, people go, oh, well, do we really need Braille? Yes, you really need Braille. there are strong reasons for why you need Braille, and but yeah, it seems like every time there's an advancement in speech technology, it crops up again.
Yeah, I know people always think like, oh, this is better, it's more exciting, it's more, you don't have to do that. Must be clunky learning Braille. And it's like, well, you know, I'm sure it's not so fun to learn to read in any ways. You know, kids don't maybe want to do that, but you know, it's just a part of life. You have to learn to do that, and just the educational benefits and the potential for, you know, how far you can take your education. I don't, it's a shame that people, you know, were and probably still are graduating high school that are visually impaired and, you know, are functionally illiterate, because without Braille, that's what you would be.
Yeah, the ones that I worry about the most are the ones who have eye conditions where, you know, when they're going through school, their vision is okay and it supports, you know, large print and you know, maybe they have some assistance with speech output as well. But a lot of schools don't look at the long term for these kids, and they don't consider the fact that, okay, you know, this kid has got vision now, but when this kid is 40, odds are, you know, they might have no vision at all. And it's those kids who are leaving the school system without any kind of Braille education that I worry about the most.
Exactly. Those are the kids that are really in the danger zone.
Yeah.
But it's funny that Tom has no vision, and I did have people who were blindness professionals telling me if he is a Braille reader. And I'm like, there's really no if about it.
Wow, interesting. So they're not even pushing Braille. That's scary.
It can be. And I think just because most kids, you know, are not even still learning Braille enough, that like a lot of Braille teachers they're rusty, you know, they're not using it.
Yeah, and there's, you know, I don't know what it is like in Pittsburgh, but certainly here in Canada, there's never enough teachers to teach Braille. There's always a shortage.
Yeah, right now we're pretty lucky. The University of Pittsburgh here has a teacher of the visually impaired graduate program. Mm-hmm. So there tends to be enough in our area, but I know that, you know, it's a problem throughout the country that, like, especially more rural areas, there aren't any. Sometimes there'll be like one for an entire county.
Yep, that's not a lot of Braille instruction per student.
No, certainly not. Tom gets, let's see, like at least an hour a day, every day with a teacher of the visually impaired. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
See, and then it certainly doesn't help people that the cost of the equipment to actually learn Braille without instruction is so expensive that, you know, it's almost unaffordable as well.
It is, and like as a parent, it can be very intimidating, the idea of Braille. Because I mean, I have a lot of people that were buying Tom books and saying, "Oh, well, you can just Braille over them." I'm like, I am not a professional. I mean, that would be a lot. And I would hate to think that like I would make some sort of mistake and then he's trying to learn and I'm making it worse for him. Yeah, I think, people don't think of that part.
Now, the Smart Brailer, is that the main piece of assistive technology that Tommy uses, or do you have other stuff as well that you use on a day-to-day basis?
I would say that's the main one. He was using an FM system at his old school. And, you know, the type of thing where like the teacher has the one thing that's like a microphone, and then he would have like a receiver so that he gets her voice directly in his ear.
Oh, okay.
And they trialed that for a while at his old school. Because some of the other children in his class had like, you know, sort of like repetitive sounds that they were doing. And he found that really hard to work through. And it was very distracting. He could be easily distracted by sounds. So that sort of helped cut through the clutter and keep, you know, him focused on his lessons. And when we switched to public school, we did continue on with an FM system, but he hasn't really needed it here. But it was a good tool for him when he needed it.
What does Tommy think of the blog?
You know, he's sort of uninterested in it. He's like, oh, yeah, whatever. Just something mom does. He's not super impressed with it. He cares about, like, his music going to play outside. He likes going to the amusement park. He would live there if he could, you know. He's pretty much focused on his ideas these days.
That sounds like a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Now, what about you? Now, what's your favorite part of blogging?
I would say it's, interacting with other parents and, sharing information and just the opportunities that, have grown for Tom through there. Like, I found out about a sports camp that's just like 2 hours away from me at a university. And Tom has been participating in that for 2 years now. This is his second year. He went for a full week by himself, living in a dorm, with assistance. But, to be away from your parents when you're 6 years old, I find that pretty impressive for a whole week. So he's just found a lot of really cool opportunities, got to do really cool stuff, through the resources I've found through blogging.
Pittsburgh has a blind hockey team.
It does. He actually got to, through that sports camp, they're affiliated with the Blind Penguins team. So he got to go to the Mary Lemieux Sports Complex and get on the ice and try it out. Yeah, he really loved it. So we're thinking maybe in a year or two might be something he'd like to pursue. We'll see.
Yep.
Yeah, Ryan plays blind hockey.
No, I tried once.
Well, that counts.
I went out once.
It didn't end well.
No.
Ryan, meet the boards. Boards meet Ryan.
Yep.
Right now, Tom is taking piano lessons, and that's like, he's very into that. He's super into music, so maybe hockey next year.
It's an expensive sport.
It's true.
Yes, it is. Though I think they actually have support from the Pittsburgh Penguins,
right,
to help defray some of the costs for families. So that's really awesome.
And I guess he's almost getting ready to go back to school. Is that right?
Yeah, he goes back on like the 29th. So just getting ready to get back into that school frame of mind.
Is he is he excited, or is he like me and just dreading it?
I think he's sort of excited to see his friends again, but like, I'm sure once he goes like, oh yeah, I forgot about the school part.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot I had to get up in the morning. What?
Exactly.
Now, is he the only blind student in this school?
He is the only one in the elementary school right now that's blind. They had a high school student that was blind that was there throughout her whole, educational career. And I think she just graduated and she was a cane user. I'm not sure if she read Braille, but so yeah, they do have a little experience.
Good.
Yeah.
And so down the road, will he be getting maybe a guide dog?
If he wants one, he really likes dogs, so he may. We'll see. I'm more of a cat person.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too.
But we'll see. He'll get whatever he wants, of course.
Now, does he know that yet? Does he know that, like, all I have to do is ask for a dog? Wait a minute.
I'm sort of going to work up to that, because if I told him that now, I don't think I'd ever hear the end of it.
That's right. Well, we won't tell him either, and I'm sure he won't be listening to the podcast, so you're safe.
Yeah, we'll keep that under our hat for a couple more years if we can.
See, it is too bad they don't have guide cats.
They'd constantly be wandering into traffic.
That's right. Or sleeping.
He would just be so not interested. We have a cat, and he could care less. It's like a pillow to him. He just has no interest.
Now, you said Tom was taking piano. How is he being taught music?
He first started taking percussion lessons. We did music together. So that's like the kid music classes where, sit in a circle and clap along and play little hand instruments together. And the teacher was like so impressed with how he could like find the backbeat and, you know, was always on rhythm, always on time. He would get like super upset when the other kids were just playing around because he was like, all right, this is music time. Let's get
be professional people. Come on.
Exactly. He was like, amateurs, you know? So she was like really insistent, like you need to make sure you can get him in classes. And we tried, but it was very hard to find someone. I mean, we talked to a lot of people and they're like, oh, we feel like maybe in a couple years we could help him. And then we finally hooked up with an elementary music teacher who had worked with kids who were disabled. And he said like, oh yeah, I'd be more than happy. And because we wanted to make sure it was someone who wanted to work with him, not someone who like, you know, was doing it because they felt they had to or whatever, you know?
Right.
And this was a guy who really was excited to work with Tom. And like, he actually came to observe him in that other music class and was like, yeah, I would love to work with this kid. So we worked with that guy for, you know, about a year. And he started having some health problems and then we were looking for someone new, and in our area, there opened up a place called Special Notes, and this is a woman who teaches piano and other instruments to children of all abilities. So that has been great. She has been like so supportive of Tom, and you know, she just is very interested in helping develop him, and he's been really good at it, and I think it'll be good for, you know, his Braille as well.
Now, is she teaching him to read Braille music?
We're just sort of playing by ear right now, I think.
Right.
She was very excited that he loves the sound of music, so he already like knew the scales a little bit. So he had sort of like an understanding, even just a rudimentary one, from loving that music so much. And I don't know, I am not musical myself. My husband is, and they tell me he's like finding middle C, and he can, you know, he knows when he's off key and he can get back on it. So, I mean, he's finding his way and he's really loving it.
What's something crazy interesting about you, Jessica, that we haven't asked you about?
Well, I could tell you that my husband has always been in metal bands, and we're huge fans of metal.
Really?
And Tom is not.
See, this is interesting. Really? Okay, so what's your favorite metal band?
Oh, that's hard to say. I mean,
top two.
I would say I really love Faith No More.
Very good.
And let's say Danzig is a classic.
See, I would not have guessed that. I would not have guessed that. That's going in the show notes as well. Jessica, where can people find the blog?
It is thomasmarshalldoesitall.com, and we're also on Twitter and Facebook.
Perfect. And again, we'll link to those in the show notes as well. We think you're doing incredible work. Thanks so much for contributing to the community and giving people a place to go to find out more about the condition and more about just life in general, raising a blind child.
Great. Thanks so much. It was nice talking to you guys.
All right, Jessica.
Good talking to you too.
Take care.
All right.
Rock
Take care.
on.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, a metalhead.
Rock on.
Mm-hmm.
Rock on.
Really?
No K9us?
That's the only metal band that you know.
It's because you brought it up.
You're Mr. Glenn Campbell.
Nope. 80s.
Are you?
80s is my favorite music.
Well, there's 80s metal.
Yeah.
What about Slayer and
Led Zeppelin?
No.
Led Zeppelin.
Not Led Zeppelin. Def Leppard, rather.
Oh, those guys were
No,
metal, though.
that's hair bands.
Yeah, those are... You grew up in North Vancouver, clearly. What the hell?
It's
Def
true, I
Leppard
did.
is metal?
Loverboy. Harlequin. Head pins.
Yep.
Metallica.
Yeah, see, Metallica was metal. That would have
Yeah.
been considered 80s metal. Ozzy.
Yep.
Uh,
Black Sabbath.
Yep. Yeah. But that was interesting. That was, doing some important work over there. It's I don't know. It's fascinating. Like I think that blogging can be such an important aspect of community. I love blogs like hers. I hate a lot of other blogs because I feel like people abuse the blog sphere.
Well, if you're looking for some, specific type of content, a blog like hers is quite relevant to your eye condition if that's something you're looking for. So she's got a lot of good information there, whereas other people just, ramble and rant and, that's their blog. Hers is quite informative.
Well, and she brought up a great point about, when you look up a lot of these eye conditions and all you find are just here are the symptoms, here's the prognosis, here's it's all just very medical and very impersonal. It really doesn't give you the information that you might necessarily be after if you're a mom of a newborn that has one of these conditions. So,
well, even when I first lost my sight and from my car accident, the agencies basically told my parents, make a room for him. He's not going to be able to contribute to society. He's blind. He's going to be living with you guys the rest of his life. And
what?
Yeah,
they told you that?
Uh-huh.
Who told your parents that? Like ICDC? Or?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The agencies
that's crazy.
Agencies just don't. I guess they don't see the big picture, right? They don't really put big expectations on a person's outcome. They kind of look at the situation as it is and go, okay, well, this is it. This is where he's at. This is where he's going to be. Take him home.
Well, hopefully they're better now.
I hope so. I really hope so. There's a lot more out there now for people, especially in the larger cities and communities. Where I was, there was no services.
Right.
And I got Braille once a month. I got O&M once a month.
Jeez.
You're not going to learn anything and grow when you're getting Braille for an hour a month.
Yeah, that's why these services are so important. Yet, they just, in so many provinces, they're cutting back on these services and more, and we need to go the other way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or they're defunding them. A lot of the provinces don't pay enough money to, agencies like CNIB who are actually out there providing services.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing, and especially this equipment that is just it's crucial for people to learn Braille or to just function day to day, and the cost is so prohibitive for somebody who's just making ends meet, or even middle class people who can afford a $12,000 device.
Exactly. Yeah, even if you're working, have a full-time job, you're looking at $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a Braille printer.
Yeah.
Add a screen reader on top of that, a Braille display, OCR software. You're up around $8,000-9,000 now. Like, that's a chunk of change.
Yeah, and especially when when the technology is moving at a pace where all that stuff needs to be replaced in 3-4 years.
Well, we've talked about it on the podcast before. Stuff like Braille technology, that hasn't really changed in 50 years, 40 years. Since those Braille cells have been around. Why is that?
Right.
There's got to be better technology out there.
Well, and there is, and that's what, I sort of alluded to when we were talking to Jessica. And remind me, Steve, because you're the one that kind of is the expert on this, but what's this new type of Braille technology that's going to let them lower the price?
Well, I'm not 100% sure because I've never had my hands on it, but I have a suspicion of what it is.
Okay, go.
I believe it's based around a circular wheel where you've basically got the various combinations of dots on different faces, and it just turns to the correct face for whatever character or whatever half of a character it's making. So you would have two wheels side by each. The first wheel would do your dots 1 through 3, and the second wheel would do your dots 4 through 6. Now that's my guess.
So we need to get an Orbit and take it apart.
Yeah.
Well, now has the Orbit come out yet, or is this still in development hell?
It's still in development, so far as I know. The rumor was that it was supposed to start shipping, I think, this month or early next.
Because I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I saw some on Twitter. I think APH is getting theirs soon. It was supposed to be out last fall.
Yeah, it's been
delayed
a long ways.
Yeah.
So.
And what does that retail for?
I think it's $500.
Yeah. So man, if they can make a go of that, it's going to mean a huge difference to a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
Braille for the masses.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Hey,
right.
Ryan.
Rob.
Don't us up. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
They can find us online at www.atbanter.com.
They can also email us if they desire, atbanterpodcast@gmail.com. Where else can they find us, I wonder?
Steve, where can people find us?
He's out of
Well,
practice.
let me see. Gosh, it's been a while. So I'm going to say they can get us on the Facebooks.
That's correct.
They can get us on the Tweeters.
That's correct.
YouTubes. Yeah, there we go. Instagram.
Yeah, I guess.
No.
Yeah,
Not
maybe,
really, though.
no.
You're not posting anything.
Instagram,
so
yeah, but Instagram is
it's
a failed thing.
It
No
is
one
failed.
cares.
Yeah.
What are we going to post?
Yeah, honestly, just like another picture of us.
Yeah, believe me, folks, you don't
Look,
want
it's them
that.
again.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you don't
Yeah,
want. I mean,
yeah.
we did take a lot of pictures that day, but you believe me, you don't want to see them.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks everybody for listening. I have been Rob Minot.
And I've been Ryan Fleury.
And I'm pretty sure I'm still Steve Barkley.
And we will see everybody next week.
Ciao. This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.